Now that we have phpMyAdmin secured, let's go ahead and create a database for the poker project. So I'm going to go back to phpMyAdmin, and I'm going to start under the Databases tab, and I'm going to create a new database. So I'm going to call this Poker, and in my SQL case is not significant, so it's going to downcase everything. For collation order, I'm going to scroll down until I find UTF-8. It's after UTF-32. And then UTF-8 General CI. So this is Unicode multi-byte format, case insensitive. And hit Create button. So now I have a poker database, but it has no tables in it. And I'm going to create 3 tables here. I'm going to create the login, the users table from the previous project, and the sessions table from the previous project. And then I'm also going to create a new draw table that's going to have some information about expected return for various kinds of draws. So let's pull up our poker project. And we have 2 CSV files, and we're going to turn these into database tables. So for users, we have a username field and a password hash field. And this is, I think, about 60 characters or so, but we'll go ahead and make it bigger than that just in case. And I'm going to go back to phpMyAdmin. The first name is going to be users, and it's going to have 2 columns. And the first column is going to be username, and this is going to be varchar, which is variable length character string, and it's also going to have a hash, which is also going to be varchar for now. And then I need to pick a maximum length for a username, and I'm going to pick a big one, so 256 characters. But that's okay because varchar only uses however many bytes it needs to use to hold this value, plus a little bit extra for the size. And then for hash, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm just going to use 128, which I know is bigger than any hash I'm likely to get. And I'm going to leave the rest of these blank for now, except under index, I'm going to make the username field the primary field in this database. Move this over a little bit. So I'll just say OK. So that means that this is the primary key that I'm going to use to look up records with. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Oh, so max key length is 767 bytes. Change this to 64 bytes instead. Save. That worked. So now we have a table, and we can import some data into it. So under More, Import, I'm going to locate that users.csv file, which is in C, XAMPP, htdocs, CIS 195p, video poker, data, users.csv. And all of these default settings are fine. I'm going to hit Go. Import was successful, and I got all these values. So now if I look at Browse, I have some errors that I need to fix on the server, so let's ignore those all for now. So I got all the usernames and all the hash values for my users.csv file. So that's the first table. Let's go ahead and click back on Database Poker, and we want to create another table. So under Create Table, this one is going to be my account under Data. So you'll notice this is all lowercase. So we'll go account under data. This is going to have two columns as well. It's going to have a username field, and this is going to have a session data. This is varchar, same size as the other one, 64. This will be varchar, and then here I sort of need to know how long this whole thing is, which I don't. But I'm going to go ahead and click here. So this is character 21, or character 1555, and this is character 9. So that's less than 1600 bytes. So I'm going to go back to my phpMyAdmin, and I'm going to make this 3200 bytes. And we'll save. And I should have made this the primary key, so I'm going to click this box and then click the primary key button. So now this is the primary key for this table, which means I'm going to use the username to look up the record. So now I'm going to import the data, choose File again, Account Data, and then I'm going to take the defaults here again, so we'll hit Go. So I have my two sessions, and that's what they look like. So you'll notice that it got rid of the double quotes around the value, and it also changed these double quotes to single double quotes. And that's because the format of the CSV file that PHP knows about is actually the same format as the one that phpMyAdmin knows about. So everything looks good here. And then we have our third table. So we're going to create a new table called draw values. And this one's going to have two columns as well. And it's going to have a grouped hand, and it's going to have an expected value. So let's go ahead and look at that file. I'm going to download pokerdraws.zip. Open Downloads, right-click on pokerdraws.zip and say Extract All. And that's going to go into a PokerDraws folder. And let's take a look at this CSV file. So I'm going to right-click and edit with Notepad++. And it has two columns. It has this grouped hand thing, which I'll explain in a minute. And then it has the expected number of units you can get from that draw. So the grouped hand is basically the regular hand, 5-card hand, whatever cards you want to keep from that hand, organized in a way that that sort of folds them together. So, for example, I might have a king of clubs, or a king of hearts, or a king of spades, or a king of diamonds, and all of those draws are going to have the same expected return. So instead of representing 4 separate hands, I only want to represent one hand. So inside the parenthesis basically are 2 cards that are suited. So 5, 3 inside of parentheses means like 5 of hearts and 3 of hearts, or 5 of clubs and 3 of clubs. And then when they're in separate parentheses, that means they're different suits. So like this would be the king of clubs, and this would be the 2 of diamonds. So different suits means different parentheses. And then I have all of these different hand combinations. It turns out there's 150,000 distinct group hands. So after you've done all this folding, you take all the possible 5-card poker hands and all the possible draws out of that. You end up with 150,000 different combinations. So this is ace with a suited 8. 10 with a suited deuce and a 9. So this could be ace of hearts, 8 of hearts, 10 of clubs, 2 of clubs, 9 of diamonds. Or it could be 2 followed by 10, followed by 8, followed by 9, followed by 8, or 2 followed by 8, followed by 10, followed by ace, followed by 9. Or these two could be spades, and these two could be hearts, or whatever. So all those possible combinations get grouped together into this one pattern. And then if we look at a hand like this, for example, if you keep a queen jack suited, jack, that's a full house, so the expected return from that hand is 9. So we're going to go ahead and import this file, but there's one problem with the phpMyAdmin import, is it's not very zippy, and when you have a big CSV file like this with hundreds of thousands of rows, it takes a ridiculous amount of time to actually import it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to import this directly by sending a command to the SQL server, having the SQL server load this data instead of doing it through phpMyAdmin. And there's one other thing that's important before I do this, which is you'll notice that I haven't set the primary key here. I haven't said that the group 10 is the primary key yet. And I'm doing that because setting that value will cause the import to be much slower because it has to build the index one line at a time as each record comes in. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. And then instead of going to import, instead I'm going to go to the SQL tab and I'm going to create a SQL command. So I have put that SQL command on the lecture videos page, and here's what it looks like. Copy that and go back to phpMyAdmin, and I'm going to select all and paste this new SQL command. So let's make this a little bigger. So what this is doing is it's loading data in file, so it's finding this file, loading it into the current database, which is the PokerDatabase. And here's the name of the file, so you'll have to change this path to match wherever you downloaded the file to, into which table you're importing it in, and I actually changed the name, so I have draw undervalues now, so let me change that to draw undervalues. And then comma separated values, double quoted, delimiters, new line characters at the end of each line. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the go. And not so bad. So that only took 5 seconds to import on my machine. If I had done it using phpMyAdmin, it would literally take hours to import that same file. So now let's look at the Browse tab. Oh, I forgot to put the links on the varchars. Oh, my fault. So let's delete that stuff again. Delete. Go. Browse. Okay, so it's empty. Go to structure. Here's the part I forgot. I forgot to specify the correct length for and type for these fields. So I'm going to change this. These should both be, this one should be a varchar. And the maximum grouped hand is open paren, first card, close paren, open paren, second card, close paren, open card, third card, and so on. So that's 3 characters per card times 5 cards per hand. So the longest one that I expect is actually 15 characters long. But I'm going to pad that out to 25 just in case. And then for expected return, I'm going to make this be a decimal number. And I expect the decimal to be at most 30 characters wide, and I'm going to have 25 characters after the decimal point. So the biggest paying hand is actually 800, which is 3 characters to the left of the decimal point. And then if you actually look at the data, you'll see that I have something like 15 or so decimal points. So once again, this is bigger than I expect to actually see in the data. Go ahead and save that. Okay, so now that I have the right values, I'm going to go and execute a SQL command. And we'll paste, change this to draw values, and go. Okay, so 152,000 rows, 9 seconds this time. Let's browse. Great, so that looks better. So here's my grouped hands. Here's my expected return. Worst possible hand. And let's click on this again. So best possible hand is ace, king, queen, jack, 10 suited. So that's a royal flush. And here's the straight flushes, here's the 4 of a kinds, and so on. So let's sort by group hand. So that data all looks fine. Okay, so now that we have our data in, now we can set the primary key. So we're going to be using the grouped hand to look up the expected return. So back under structure, I'm going to click grouped hand and select primary key. And that will take a little while because it's got to build the index, but it's still going to be a lot less time than it would have been if we had tried to import the data with the index set. Okay, so now we're good to go with our database. We have 3 tables and 1 database. One more thing that we want to do is we want to create a special poker user who has access to only this database. That way, if somebody gets the password for the poker user, they can't mess with any of our other databases. So I'm going to go back to the server, create a new user, click on the Users tab, and then under New, click Add User. So here's the login information. I need a username, and I'm going to have just poker be the username. So the poker user has access to the poker database. Any host, password, I'm going to use poker. So not a secure password at all, but if somebody gets access to this password, they only get access to my poker database. And then I'm going to scroll to the bottom and say go. I'm not going to give them permission to anything here yet. Go. And now I have a new user. So I want to give them access to the poker database. So I'm going to click on the database button, database specific privileges, select the poker database, go. And then here are the things that I want to let the poker user do. So I want to let them select, insert, update, and delete records. I'm not going to let them create, alter, index, drop tables, any of this structure stuff. And I won't let them grant lock tables or references. So basically they can just fetch and write information to the database, but they can't change anything else. We'll hit go. And that should be everything we need.